The woman. Outside the elevator. This is a story I heard from a friend during my school days. Back then, I wasn't very fond of studying. To kill the nearly 100 minutes of boring time between classes, I would always go to a certain place alone. It was far from the campus center, at the end of the school, in the old club building. This building was the base for some small clubs with very few members. In a dark, lonely corner of that building, whenever I opened the door and walked in, my friend Alex would always be there. I would silently sit across from Alex. Once he confirmed it was me, he would start talking. As long as Alex didn't chase me away, I would sit and quietly listen to him. Just like that, what seemed like a meaningless break would become the most fulfilling part of my day. One day, Alex suddenly started a conversation as usual. "Have you ever ridden an elevator?" he asked. I replied that if there were people in Japan who had never ridden an elevator, I'd like to see them. But then I thought, considering this friend, he might just be someone who never had. He had an inexplicable, otherworldly aura about him. He continued, "This happened 5 years ago. A new apartment building was built in a nearby town. The land didn't have any strange rumors about it. However, shortly after residents started moving in, a strange rumor began to spread. The elevator would open suddenly, regardless of the time, day, or night. It would move from the first floor to the 9th floor, with no one inside, going up and down repeatedly. At first, the residents thought it was a prank by kids, but no one ever saw any kids playing around. They didn't think installing cameras or having the property management check it out was necessary. Eventually, people started avoiding the elevator. One day, a man who lived alone on the 9th floor came home late at night after a drinking party. He had heard strange stories about the elevator, so he usually took the stairs. But that night, he was too drunk to climb the stairs and decided to take the elevator. Thinking he had never seen any ghosts there, he pressed the button. The elevator slowly descended from the 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor. With a ding, the door opened. No one was inside, which was to be expected. The man thought it was ridiculous to believe in ghosts, and that he had been foolish for avoiding the elevator because of rumors. But his thoughts were quickly interrupted. As the elevator ascended, he saw through the glass doors a woman standing in the hallway on the 2nd floor. Her head was drooping, and her hands were swinging side to side, looking almost like a ghost. The man thought he must have had too much to drink. The elevator continued to rise. He saw the same woman on the 3rd floor. He was confused. As the elevator climbed higher, the woman seemed to get closer. By the time he reached the 7th floor, the woman was right in front of the elevator. Her clothes, skin, and hair were all black. He could barely see her face, hidden by her hair. At the 9th floor, he was certain she would be waiting at the door. But when the elevator stopped, no one was there. The man sighed in relief, thinking he had imagined it all. However, the elevator door wouldn't open. He realized he could see a faint reflection of a woman standing behind him in the elevator. I asked, "What happened to the man?" Alex said, "The next day, the man didn't show up for work. Worried, his colleagues checked on him and found him cowering in the elevator. He had developed a severe fear of enclosed spaces and was later admitted to a mental hospital. He kept his door open at all times, terrified of confined spaces." Alex's gaze shifted from the sky to me. What do you think the man saw? Was it a real ghost, or just his imagination? I thought it might be a made-up story, but if it was true, he must have encountered a ghost. Long-haired women in white dresses are common in ghost stories. But what if there were more diverse types of ghosts, like bald uncles or neurotic aunts? Whenever a long-haired woman appeared in a ghost story, I always thought it was fabricated. Alex continued, "Do you know why I told you this story today? That apartment building is only about a 30-minute train ride from here. I did some research and found that before it became an apartment, the land had been empty for years, with no reports of suicides or murders. No one experienced anything supernatural before the man saw the woman. After he saw her, people in the building started encountering strange women, but those sightings stopped after a while." "Did no one else ever see the woman?" I asked. Alex replied, "No, no one else did. The man resigned from his job and moved into a mental hospital. He had developed severe claustrophobia and kept his door open at all times. What did he really encounter? Maybe only he knows." After hearing Alex's story, I started to worry. Perhaps the next time I take an elevator, I should avoid looking outside. The thumping sounds in the elevator. A few days ago, I experienced something terrifying that I hadn't felt in a long time. I thought I should share it with you all. That day, my friend Michael's local pachinko parlor was having an anniversary event. So, a group of 4 friends, including myself, decided to go play. We lined up from the morning, intending to play for just 10 minutes and then leave with some winnings. However, our luck kept fluctuating, and we ended up staying until closing time. In the end, we didn't even make 10,000 yen, leaving us all feeling disappointed. To reflect on our bad luck, we headed to an izakaya for a few drinks, staying until it closed as well. Still unsatisfied, we decided to continue drinking at Michael's apartment. We bought some more alcohol at a convenience store on the way and arrived at his building, only to be greeted by the manager. "I'm sorry," he said. "The elevator is out of order." We were all disheartened and asked Michael, "Really? What floor do you live on?" "9th floor," Michael replied. Grumbling, we climbed up to his apartment and started our second round of drinks. Having played pachinko all day and then climbing the stairs, we were exhausted. Michael and one of our friends quickly fell asleep. Around midnight, I ran out of cigarettes. I told the friend who was still playing games, "I'm going to the convenience store," and left the apartment. Maybe because I was drunk, I forgot the elevator was out of order. I instinctively pressed the elevator button and waited to go down. Although I remembered the elevator was broken while waiting, I shrugged it off and stepped inside when it arrived. The elevator was empty, but I habitually watched the floor indicator. Suddenly, with a clunk, the elevator stopped. Realizing the predicament, I tried to use my phone to contact my friends, but realized I had left it in the apartment. With no other option, I used the intercom in the elevator to call for help, but no one responded. Was it broken too? I decided to try and pry the doors open myself. I wedged my fingers into the gap, and with a creak, the door opened slightly, letting in some light. At least I knew I was stuck on a floor, not between them. But the door quickly closed again due to the tension. I managed to push it open halfway, and when I looked up, I saw a pale-faced man staring at me through the gap, extending an arm towards me. For a moment, I thought he was there to rescue me, but his bloodshot eyes and pained expression made me scream and jump back. The man groaned deeply, wildly waving his arm as if trying to grab me. I huddled in the corner, terrified to approach him. I desperately kicked the half-open door with all my strength, and it finally slammed shut. I collapsed on the floor, hearing the man's nails scratching the door outside. I was trapped with nowhere to go and no way to escape. Just as I was trembling uncontrollably, the intercom crackled to life. "This is the elevator company. What's your situation?" Relieved, I stood up and said, "I'm trapped. Please send someone to rescue me quickly." The thumping outside intensified. "Please stay calm. We're checking the situation on the monitor and will send technicians immediately." I yelled, "Hurry, he's trying to get in." The technician asked, "There are 2 of you trapped, right?" "What?" I looked down and saw a boy, about the size of an elementary school student, crouching there, knocking on the door. Before I could react, 2 men in uniforms pulled me out of the elevator and laid me down in the hallway. I was finally safe. They asked about the other person. Another person? Right, the child. But when I got into the elevator, I was alone. Then suddenly, I saw this boy. One of the workers looked puzzled and said, "A child?" The operator said it was a man and a woman trapped. Later, I reviewed the security footage with the staff. When I was talking to the operator, a long-haired woman stood behind me, but there was no sign of the boy. The technician also mentioned that the elevator had no malfunction. A few hours later, I returned to Michael's apartment. Surprisingly, my 3 friends were still asleep, unaffected by the earlier commotion. I woke Michael up and told him what had happened. Michael said, "Didn't I mention?" The real estate agent told me that people often see 3 figures in the elevator, but they don't appear every time. Because of these bad rumors, the rent here is cheaper. Michael added that several years ago, a family of 3 had died in one of the apartments. The mother, suffering from mental illness, had tried to commit suicide using gas, taking her husband and child with her. The strangest part was how they died. The mother was found hanged in a locked bedroom. The 5-year-old boy was found with strangulation marks at the bedroom door. And the father, though without any external injuries, was found dead outside the bedroom from gas poisoning. Reflecting on what I saw in the elevator, it seemed to mirror that tragic incident. The mother and child were inside, while the father was outside, perhaps trying to save his son. Maybe their spirits won't rest until they reconcile. The elevator on the 6th floor. A woman named Angel rented an apartment in Tokyo. The building was newly constructed, the rent was cheap, and it was close to her workplace, an ideal situation. However, there were quite a few vacant units, and Angel soon found out why the rent was so low. According to the residents, a woman had recently hanged herself in one of the rooms on the 6th floor. Since then, rumors had spread that if you took the elevator alone at night, it would stop on the 6th floor and open its doors, even if no one had pressed the button. Hearing this made Angel uncomfortable, but she didn't want to give up such a great deal. She reassured herself that she usually finished work early and wouldn't have to come home late. However, one day she ended up working late, and by the time she finished, it was nearly midnight. With no friends nearby to stay with, she reluctantly headed back to her apartment. When she reached the elevator, she hesitated but realized that climbing 9 flights of stairs was too exhausting. She pressed the button for the 9th floor. The elevator began to ascend with an unsettling mechanical sound. She fervently hoped it wouldn't stop on the 6th floor. As the elevator neared the 6th floor, it dinged and the doors slid open. The dimly lit hallway outside sent a wave of panic through Angel. She noticed one of the doors had a large X taped across it, certain it was the infamous room. She frantically pressed the close button multiple times. The doors slowly shut, and the elevator continued its journey to the 9th floor. She rushed into her apartment and slept with the lights on that night. This incident made her increasingly uncomfortable with her apartment. She began to understand why others had moved out. However, the apartment was cheap and conveniently located, making it hard to leave. She resolved never to come home late again and decided to stay. For a long while, nothing unusual happened. Winter arrived, and with it came the company's end-of-year party. Attendance was mandatory, and Angel had to join. Everyone drank heavily, and by the time they finished, it was past 2 a.m. Despite considering staying at a friend's place, she felt embarrassed to admit she was afraid of ghosts. Buoyed by alcohol-induced bravery, she decided to take a cab home. She staggered into the elevator and pressed the button for the 9th floor. As the elevator ascended and neared the 6th floor, her drunken haze began to clear. She silently prayed it wouldn't stop, but the elevator dinged and halted at the 6th floor. The doors opened, revealing the same eerie hallway. Her fear sobered her up completely, and her face turned pale. But then, she thought, maybe it was just someone playing a prank, pressing the button from the 6th floor. Determined to check, she leaned out of the elevator to look at the buttons. The hallway was empty and eerily silent. As she was about to step back into the elevator, she caught her reflection in the mirrored doors. Behind her, hovering above her head, was a long-haired, pale-faced woman staring directly at her. Angel screamed and bolted out of the elevator, running down the stairs. After that night, she stayed with a friend for a while before eventually moving out of the apartment. She never discovered if the figure she saw was the woman who had committed suicide on the 6th floor, and she had no desire to find out. Thank you all for watching this video. Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure to ring the notification bell for future updates.